Alice still had that dazed look when she left, and she seemed to hesitate before going around the Acropolis via the East End, the long way, but Deborah was too stunned by the find to wonder why. Deborah's dig had just become Deborah's find, and she would have to handle it with only a couple of students for assistance, and Bowerdale, of course. Her heart sank. He mustn't be allowed to take over. Deborah considered the newly created cenote, thinking hard. She had read all there was to read about Ek Balam, and this sure as hell wasn't on any map she had seen. A passage inside the Acropolis meant an underground chamber, rare in Mayan pyramids, but not unheard of. It would probably be old. Older than the building on top of it. Early classic, perhaps. Maybe even pre-classic. Her heart was racing. This is huge. Beyond huge. It would make headlines, which would delight Steve Powell and Cornerstone, even if they found nothing significant inside. But unless the chamber had been robbed, there would be things to find. She laughed with delight, but the sound died on her lips. She turned around quickly, sure that there was someone in the underbrush behind her. She had heard something. A snapping twig, perhaps. A stealthy, cautious sound. Deborah stared at the foliage, but there was no movement. She realized she was holding her breath and exhaled slowly. Still nothing, but she felt a chill, and the hair on her arms prickled. "You're imagining it," she told herself. "There's nothing." A leaf, one of those huge elephant ear things, shifted fractionally despite the lack of wind, and for a moment she saw, or thought she saw, eyes watching her. "Where is it?" Deborah started and looked up. It was Bowerdale, looking flushed and expectant. Alice jogging to keep up. "It's a tunnel?" he called, scrambling down to where she stood. "You're sure?" "A passage," said Deborah, "built with stone blocks and roofed with slabs. Yes, I'm sure." He staggered over the uneven ground and thrust his face over the edge. "We should reinforce this area," said Deborah. "We've no idea how solid this lip is." "If it was going to collapse, it would have done so already," muttered Bowerdale, gazing into the cave below. "But we're going to need to build a brace across the top and get the winch so I can get down there." "You?" "I'm the surveyor." "Of known monuments," said Deborah. "This is not one of them and falls under my jurisdiction. I'll be the first one down there." Alice was watching Deborah carefully. "With all due respect, Miss Miller, this is a potentially hazardous situation, and I think a man might be a better choice to—" Deborah just laughed and peered down toward the water. "There's a ledge over there," she said, pointing. "Lower me in and I can swing over to the passage. Do we have the lamps?" "They're in the van," said Bowerdale, taken aback. "But I still think I should be the person to investigate. My credentials as a surveyor have been recognized by the highest authorities, and not only in archaeology. I worked as—" "Surveyor at White Sands," said Deborah. "Yes, you said." "Well then," he replied, as if that settled it. "Where's James?" she said, ignoring him and shooting a glance at Alice. "He was over on the east side," said the girl. "Go get him," said Deborah. "And bring whatever flashlights are in the van." Alice looked apprehensive, but she nodded once, her pale face blank, and then she was gone. Bowerdale watched her leave, then turned to Deborah, his voice low. "Now look here," he said. "I am the senior archaeologist on site." Deborah rose, took a step away, and drew her cell phone from her hip pocket. "What are you doing?" said Bowerdale. "I'm going to go up that damned phone tower and call the lab at Valladolid," she said. "They can bring more gear." Bowerdale reached over and closed one large, tanned hand over the phone. He didn't take it from her, but he held it firmly, his fingers clamped over the number pad. "Now, hold on," he said, and there was something different in his voice now, something quiet and a little dangerous. "Let's just think this through." "What?" "We've just stumbled upon what may turn out to be one of the great Mayan finds in recent decades," he said. His face was close to hers now, his voice low and urgent.